recording number 3, Unit 1. Welcome to World History, Unit 1, Lesson 3, Intro to World History, Intro to World and Early Civilizations. Lesson 3 is about the Neolithic Revolution. The central question for this lesson: how did life change for man in the Neolithic Revolution? Our agenda and our goal for this lesson: I can analyze the changes that took place from the Paleolithic to the Neolithic era. Humans try to control nature, and this is in Lesson 3 of Module 1 of your textbook. The development of agriculture caused an increase in population and the growth of a settled way of life. So if you go to Module 1, Lesson 3 of your textbook, you will see this section, and you can read along with the notes, or you can take notes from this section. The central question from the textbook for this section is: how has the way we think about and study world history changed over time? Again, we're in Lesson 3, Humans Try to Control Nature. Let's begin. Early advances in technology and art. Tools were needed for survival, yes. And Paleolithic humans were nomads. And the definition for a nomad is someone who moved in search of food from place to place. They hunted animals, they collected plant foods, and this hunting and gathering of plant foods is called hunter gatherers. Cro Magnons had more than 100 specialized tools. So they had bone needles to sew, they had all kinds of um, tools, and we're going to talk about the different tools of the Cro-Magnons and the different, the Homo sapiens, etc. But remember, students, just a sidebar. Remember, there's no KFC, there's no McDonald's, there's no Chick-fil-A, there's no Chipotle. They had to follow their Chick-fil-A and their Chipotle and their McDonald's around from place to place. So this is how they ate. The artistic expressions in the Paleolithic age are still visible today. Early modern humans created art. They created jewelry of seashells, lion's teeth, bear claws. They polished beads from mammoth tusks, and they made cave paintings and animal sculptures, rock engravings, and paintings. So art is not something new. People have been doing it for a long time. And the beginnings of agriculture are very, very important because people stopped following the animals around and they started to domesticate these animals and the plants. Domesticating of plants, domesticating of animals is very important to sustainability for human beings. The Neolithic Revolution is also defined as agricultural revolution. So if you hear agricultural revolution or you hear Neolithic revolution, it means the same thing. And it began about 10,000 years ago. Nomadic women scattered seeds and then discovered crops growing. They shift from food gathering to food production. So from gathering the food to producing the food. And this was a great breakthrough. The causes of the agricultural revolution are threefold. Rising temperatures were probably a key reason because remember, during the Paleolithic era, you have the Ice Age. So during the Neolithic era, you have warming of temperatures. You have a longer growing season, drier land for wild grasses, and you have a constant supply of food to populate and um, and help with population growth. So early farming methods include slash and burn farming. So what is slash and burning? Slash and burn farming is the clearing of land by cutting and burning trees. Farmers move to a new area after a year or two. This is to give the land a time to replenish its nutrients. So this is how they cleared land. And this is a picture of a Neolithic um, area where they would make settled structures to live in. So they're coming out of the caves, and these areas where they would farm or graze animals like goats and sheep. Um, so the domestication of animals was very important. Domestication means, and this is the definition, the taming of wild animals. Hunters, farmers, they all tamed horses, dogs, goats, and pigs. Pastoral nomads tended sheep, goats, camels, and agriculture began to flourish. There was agriculture in Jarmo. This is a great example of what we're talking about when we say domestication of animals, domestication of plants, and the Neolithic Revolution. This site is in northeastern Iraq, where people farmed 9,000 years ago. Wild grasses, goats, pigs, sheep, horses thrive near Zagros Mountains. So, when we talk about the Neolithic Revolution, these are some things that you need to remember. People began to build shelters that were more um, more helpful for them to be able to go out easily into their farmland. They had a food supply, which was grown and produced right there near their shelters. They had technology, which they used to till the soil and to do a lot of things to harvest the food. Each person had a job. If it was the warrior, the farmer, you had the weavers, you had basket weavers, you had people who sewed uh, skins to make clothing, etc. You had tanners and things like this. Movement and trade. So if you have food and you have an abundance, then you might want to trade it. So these people start to trade and use rivers for movement quickly to go down to other settlements in order to trade with each other. Domestication means that wild animals became tame. They were able to be kept around the homes. Okay. So, because of the domestication of plants and animals, and because of the growth of agriculture, villages began to grow and prosper. Farming develops in many places. And when we talk about farming, this is agriculture. So, farming in Africa, China, Mexico, and Central America, including Peru, different crops developed in different areas. And for example, when we talk about corn, corn is indigenous or it comes from Mexico. Okay. Uh, Çatalhöyük is a place that is a great example of this early Neolithic revolution. Çatalhöyük is a place in Turkey. So it's in 1958. It is the remains of a village that they found, archaeologists found. They have wall paintings and religious shrines there, and it's located in modern day Turkey. The farming thrived there for 8,000 years, for 8,000 years ago. So the population of 5,000 to 6,000 grew crops and they raised sheep and cattle and they made pottery and they wove baskets and they traded valuable obsidian. Okay. Here's a picture of archaeological dig or site at Çatalhöyük in Turkey. And you see the homes and how they were structured in the ground. Okay. Here's another view of a home that was dug out by an archaeologist, and you see um, the areas of the home, the different areas. Here's a nice diagram of how they lived. And you see here where you see these like animal horns and things. This is like their ritual, the area where they practiced their religions, which was in the center of the home. They had their animal pen. They domesticated their animals, so they kept them close by, the goats and the chickens and things of this nature. You had places where they would gather on the top of the roof of the houses, and they went down into the structure from a ladder or some type of makeshift stairway, which they made with wood. And as you can see, the roofs were made from wood and thatch and then clay put on top. And there were different areas where they would actually bury their dead. As you can see, the dead is buried here, under the ground where my um, arrow is. You can see this is where the dead were buried, the family members. Um, so people slept at the top on the roof, and the roof was a part of the house as well. All right, Chitalukuyuk. All right, so looking at lesson 3, the essential question is, how did life change for man in the Neolithic Revolution? Write this question down and remember the important vocabulary for this section: nomad, hunter gatherer, Neolithic Revolution, slash and burn farming, and domestication.